if we're going to do something catchy, it has to be the catchiest thing we've ever done. If it's heavy, it has to be the heaviest thing. And if it's, rocky, it has to be the rockiest thing. So we were just trying to deliver the extremities across the board.
Well, dude, I love the new song. Let's just get right into it, man. Dark Void, fucking great. I mean, just out of the gate, you guys came out with that one. Just like, I mean, I think everyone kind of like started to, expect what they're going to hear from Asking Alexandria. And then this song, oh, shit. So can you dive into this track a little bit more and kind of tell me, like how long you've been sitting on this one? How long you've been working on it?
Yeah, I think, I'm always writing for Asking. Once a record comes out, I don't really stop. I continue writing. And Asking Alexandria has evolved since one. And this time when I sat down to start writing the new record, I was like, okay, I've got a pretty good blueprint. I feel like Asking Alexandria has done everything, almost everything across the rock genre. We've gone really heavy, all the way to not heavy at all, and everything in between. So I kind of felt like we'd done a big journey. And so this new record, I wanted to sort of try and take my favorite aspects, or our favorite aspects, and our fans' favorite aspects from all of them, and try and piece it together and create one sort of cohesive but new sound for Asking. And obviously a lot of people loved Asking Alexandria for our heavy stuff. A lot of people loved us for our ballady stuff. A lot of people were sat in the middle that enjoyed, stuff off of Like a House on Fire and everything in between. So to find that balance was quite difficult. But I think at the end of the day, we were like, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. If we're going to do something catchy, it has to be the catchiest thing we've ever done. If it's heavy, it has to be the heaviest thing. And if it's, rocky, it has to be the rockiest thing. So we were just trying to deliver the extremities across the board. So, Dark Void, I think, is one of those songs where it's a nice balance. There's heavier songs on the record, and then there's ones that aren't quite as heavy on the record. So Dark Void kind of sat in the middle to where it shows people the heavy side, the more aggressive side, but also it's got a big open rock metal chorus, and then the verses are more something similar to what you would find on our self-titled album, or the Red Album, as everyone calls it. So it felt like a nice blend to lead with.
So do you feel like it's kind of like an accurate representation of what people can expect on the album as a whole?
I think so. I think it's a very cohesive sounding album. It doesn't have everything that the record has to offer, because there's guitar solos, there's heavy breakdowns, there's blast beats, there's sort of softer rock songs. It's the record's got a bit of everything, but I'd say on the whole, most of the record is leaning towards, a good 80% of the record is leaning more towards the Dark Void or heavier side. There's songs on this record. There was one song in particular that we were torn between. Should we do Dark Void or should we do this other song? The other song is heavier. But I don't know. Dark Void just felt like the right move. It felt like the song we wanted everyone to hear first.
Nice. So fans can expect some even heavier shit on this record then.
Absolutely, yeah. In my opinion, things get pretty extreme these days. But as far as Asking Alexandria goes, Dark Void is heavy. It's not. You can't argue that it's not heavy. I'm sure some people will argue with me and say it's not heavy, which is fine.
Plenty of gatekeepers will talk shit. Yeah,
that's fine too. Yeah. But it is heavy. It's a heavy song, and I like the fact too that Danny doesn't enjoy screaming like he used to, because he's really damaged his vocal cords. Back in 2013, on our From Death to Destiny tour, he tore his vocal cords, had to get surgeries, all kinds of stuff. It was terrible. So since then, he's been very reluctant to scream and damage his voice again, because singing is his favorite thing in the whole world, and he's a fantastic singer. His voice is amazing. So to ruin that is something it's always in the back of his head. He doesn't want that to happen. It wouldn't just be like, oh no, Asking Alexandria can't tour or make music anymore. For him, it's everything. He's always singing. So the fact that he stepped up to the plate and he's done screaming on this record, and he has been yelling, that's because we do love and respect our fans, and we hear them. We hear people going, we want something harder. We want a bit of that old energy back. And so, I feel like we've gone and delivered that without it being so over the top that Danny risks ruining his voice again. So even the fact that he stepped up to the plate and he's screaming again, it was I hate, no pun intended, or pun intended, but it was music to my ears. It was cool to hear him using that talent again. And that just shows the sort of dedication he does actually have that a lot of people think he doesn't have.
Did he like find a way to sort of gently scream, so to speak, like a way to do it so it doesn't just destroy his throat? Because like you said, like he can't just go out and buy a new guitar or some new drumsticks or something. Like once that's cashed out, it's like maybe some surgery, hopefully, but there's no other route really.
Yeah, and he did. I don't think he's figured out another way to do it. He definitely, after recording certain songs in this album, he was definitely very hoarse. But that's just the nature of the beast. There's people having to stop tours all the time because of vocal damage. And the fact of the matter is, when you're touring and you're night after night after night playing show after show after show, the climate changes, the weather changes, everything affects your voice. Sometimes even doing radio during the day, it's like, okay, well, we've done 6 interviews today before the show. All of that's using vocal cords. So it's really quite strenuous. And I always used to try and compare it to, it's like if I was a guitar player and I just used to go and punch walls all day.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, how am I supposed to play guitar after that? And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of vocalists, their voices get tired. They're only human beings at the same time. So I think a lot of people forget that sometimes, especially when they're concentrating on just the one song or the one show. It's like, well, why can't you did it now? Why can't you just always forever do it? But it's tough.
Right. No, I mean, I just, I do my radio show, and then I do like my streams, and then I do like all my social media stuff. Like I'm talking gabbing nonstop all day. And like at the end of the day, my voice is like usually pretty cashed out, and I don't have to go play a fucking rock show that night, like. So
absolutely. It's tough, and it's one of it's the same as any muscle or anything in your body, isn't it? Really. I mean, you can't lift weights all day long. You can't run all day long unless you're Forrest Gump. So it's just one of those things, and we're getting older. It just gets harder. Touring's tough. My back is ruined, for instance. I'm only 34.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you, dude. I'm 35, and like, I can't hang the way I used to. Like those like festivals where you're camping out at night and like hanging out in tents. Like, no, can't do it, man. I need a warm bed. I need some Netflix and some Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah, I need some warm milk with some honey in it.
Right. So, since we're talking about the the kind of like bringing back a little bit of the older sound, obviously doing a lot more screaming on this new record, and just kind of like giving the fans the older, harder stuff that they want. Is there any chance we're ever gonna get Not American Average in a set list?
I'm not really, again, that kind of goes back to our conversation before, especially on tour. It's a whole different ball game to the studio. The studio, like I said, Danny blew his voice out a few times recording these songs, and he had a hoarse voice for days afterward, but it was okay. So when we were doing the songs, it was like, okay, let's get all the singing done, and then we'll record the screams. And then he's out for like 4 days. He can't do anything. So even live, we have to be very careful with what we put in our set list, because we don't want to have to run into a situation where, as an example, one of the last tours we did, the last co-headliner we did, it was us and Nothing More. We had to drop off, I think, like 2 weeks into the tour, maybe not even 2 weeks, because Danny, I can't remember what, he got laryngitis or something, and he got told, you got to go on vocal rest for 6 weeks. And so we try and avoid stuff like that. And in that instance, I think it was unavoidable. He actually just got sick. But going out on the road and then filling our set list with sort of the golden oldies, that just would require him. I mean, if you go back and listen to him, it's constant screaming. He just physically can't do that anymore. So we tried to throw some older songs back in the set list too. And Danny's like, okay, I can't physically do these though. So we'll put some screams on tracks to help him, and he'll do the screams with them, but just less brutal. and people would be upset with it, going, well, why is he doing tracks? So it's just like, well, because we know you want to hear the songs and we're trying our best to give them to you, but we can't physically perform them the way we used to.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword, and I do think most people understand. A lot of people get
For
it.
sure.
But it's tough, and I think we just have to be smart when we're picking a set list so we can actually make it through the entire tour without Danny blowing his voice up.
So don't count on that track then, but don't count.
Don't count on it.
Totally fair. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have people that complain a bitch no matter what you do, no matter what you could give them. The exact first record, start to finish, is a new version, and people would bitch about that. It's like people are gonna complain no matter what. Like, there's people that think Lauren Shore aren't heavy enough. You
know what? Yeah, and the thing is, that's okay too. And I think we're all guilty of it. I'll still put on a record that I want to listen to, like, oh, this artist has brought out a new record, let me listen to it. And I'm guilty of it too, going, I don't like this as much as the other record. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's a grower and sometimes it's not. But I think the reason for that is, and like you said, if we were to create another record that sounded exactly the same as it, they wouldn't like it. And I think the reason is that we all feel this way about certain records and certain eras of bands and artists is because at that particular time, it was very important in our life. Whoever the artist was, whatever the record was, it resonated deep within our soul. And so that will always be the record that you associate 100%. With said artist. And then when you go forward, it's such a strong nostalgic feeling that you think you want more of it. But the reality is it's never going to feel that way again, hearing songs that sound the same, because it was just, it was magic in that time and that period in your life. And you read with the words, with the sound, with everything surrounding it. And I think that's just human nature, especially when it comes down to music. I think, look at Paul McCartney. He's still touring. He's still writing music. And I'm sure there's people out there that go, oh, his new stuff's the best. Maybe they've discovered him later. But a lot of people are going to be like, nah, man, I want to listen to Let It Be, or I want to listen to the old Beatles classics, because it's just so important to them and so nostalgic, So it's just one of those things, making music. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, I think like they've even done scientific studies that say like you're the most like susceptible to discovering new music or new things in general, like in your teenage, like high school years, just like a little bit after that. Wow. And like basically I think like the cutoff is like 21 was the age I read, and it just starts going down. Like you just start getting more and more hunched in on the things you love, and like you're just not open to things. So it's like when that's why those songs and those records that you listen to in high school, they still mean so much to you, because you were just so fucking eager to like just take the world by the balls and be like, I'm down to try anything right now. And then you get in your 30s and you're like, well, I love that record. But...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even me, like I think back to when I was younger, and I used to go to like HMV or Virgin, the local record store, and I used to queue for hours to get like the latest Slipknot CD or Avenged Sevenfold or System of a Down or whoever it was at the time I would be listening to. And still to this day, if I'm going to hit play on an Avenged Sevenfold record, for instance, they've got new music out now, which I jammed today, and I was like, this is insane. They are one of the most impressive bands in the world. But if you give me a choice to just put on any old Avenged Sevenfold record, chances are I'm hitting City of Evil, because
100%.
That was my album when I was a kid, and it will always be my Avenged Sevenfold album, and that's what it is. But I think it's like that for outside of music too. Think about, it's interesting what you say about 21 being the cutoff point, and it kind of makes sense. We're creatures of comfort, so that's why so many people stay in a job that they don't necessarily like, or stay on a path that they're like, I don't want to be on this path, I want to go on a new one. But by that point, you're kind of set in your ways, and you know what's going on, so you stick with it. And I think that's just a little bit of human nature.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't leave and go off and experience things early on, like you're less likely to take those jumps later on in life, unless you hit like some kind of like midlife crisis and you're like, I'm out of here. That can happen too, for sure.
I'm out of here in my soft top Porsche, and my hair plugs.
Yeah. I think there's actually a great meme that was like, your favorite band just had a 10-year anniversary for that record, for their last record that you didn't listen to yet, like something like that. Like, because people do that all the time, like, oh, that's my favorite band. It's like, oh, did you listen to the last 3 records they put out? Like, well, no, but their first record, that's my favorite band, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know they had new records.
Yeah, yeah.
We're and it's something we all do, and it's the same with like movie franchises. I feel like,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I just was sat on my sofa last night and I see Fast and Furious 10 or something coming out, and I'm like, who the hell is watching these movies? There's 10 of them.
They keep
You know what I
making
mean? It's
them,
like,
man.
I haven't seen one since the second one
Yeah.
because it's so people must still be watching. So there's people discovering them and going,
Yeah.
you know, Fast 10 or whatever it's called is going to be someone's favorite Fast and Furious.
Yeah, I want to know, is like there a new generation of kids that just love fast cars every year, or is it just the same dudes from 2010? They're like, fuck yeah, Fast and Furious, like
More fast cars.
Yeah.
There's no way. It has to be
More
it has
circles.
to be a new generation. Yeah, it has to be a new generation. But
That's
hey,
amazing.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point you brought up with Avenged Sevenfold too, like that, because that new record, obviously, it's shaping up to be the weirdest fucking Avenged Sevenfold record that they've probably ever dropped. And like,
Yeah,
again,
but
oh, go ahead.
no, yeah, it absolutely is, and I know the guys, you know, relatively well these days. We're not best friends or anything, but we know each other pretty well. And so I don't even listen to them the same as I did then, because before I knew them, when I was a fan, when I was a young kid, you know, like I said, Waking the Fallen came out and I fell in love. City of Evil came out and my mind was blown. So that will always be my record, you know. And it took me years to get into the self-titled record after that. And as time's gone on, I appreciate everything, but I just listen to them differently now. And this new stuff, it's like, okay, well, if I sit back and I think of young Ben, Avenged Sevenfold fanatic, I don't necessarily like it all that much because it's not City of Evil. But if I sit and listen to it now as a musician, as a peer, as just a person who enjoys listening to music, I'm mind blown by how good Avenged Sevenfold are. Just the talent that oozes through the speakers. It's insane, you know. And I think I was talking to my manager about this earlier. He tour managed Avenged for years and years years, so he knows them very well as well. I was like, I think Brian or Sinister Gates might actually be, after listening to this new song, We Love You, I think it was called, he might actually be the best guitarist of all time.
Nice.
But I feel like he'll never be given that title for some reason, because he's not maybe a classic guitarist that springs to mind. But I'm just listening to this going, I compared it to, I was like, you know what it is? They're not writing songs anymore. They're not writing songs, you know, but they're writing pieces of music. Like, I don't even think of Avenged Sevenfold like as a band like Metallica or whoever they were. They're composers. Incredible to listen to.
Yeah, I agree. Like with what you said about like I think Sinister Gates is pretty underrated because he never gets listed in the conversation among like the greatest guitar players. Like, I mean, I guess when you're talking about modern guitarists, he comes up a lot, but like, yeah, he definitely doesn't get ranked up there with a lot of the other like big timers. And it's like those riffs and those solos, like that shit is wild, man. Like that dude's incredible.
The new solo on We Love You, I'm just like, I feel like he's just leaning on his whammy bar and doesn't let go of it, but he's still it's mind-blowing. It's insane. I'm gonna go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually, I have not listened to it yet. I've held off because I'm doing my stream later today on Twitch, so I'm waiting to do it like live on there, so I'm excited to hear that one.
It's weird, man, but like it's just like, whoa, this is insane. I've never heard anything like this. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I have to ask myself sometimes when I hear a band that I love and they put out something new and it doesn't do it for me. It doesn't like really, you know, fluff my pillows. And I have to like ask myself like, okay, is this mediocre or am I just being a dick? Like, what is it? You know, like, because like, am I just like holding on to what I think they should sound like? You know,
which I think a lot of people do, which is fine as well. But you know, it's one of those. When I'm listening to music, I try and not have any sort of preconceived notion. I went into this going, I know it's going to be spectacular, but I don't know what it's going to sound like, and it doesn't matter, because if you change and people say this all the time, people are like, why don't you just change the name of your band? Like, well, why? Why can't a band just, as a group of musicians, create different kinds of music? You know, and I think um, it to for like people like Avenged to have that talent, go back and listen to Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, which is like crazy post-hardcore, hardcore punk, like whoa, this is nuts. And then fast forward to this new installment in their discography, and it's like, how can you not just be in awe at the growth of the band and the
Yeah.
musicianship? It's pretty next level.
They definitely take chances and they go places where a lot of people don't want to go. And I mean, speaking of, this back to the song "Dark Void." I mean, the subject matter of that song goes places that a lot of people feel uncomfortable going. Like what kind of like put you on the path to write that track?
It's I think taking a step back and looking at, we notice a lot more stuff now than we used to. So like I'm all of us minus Danny are actually, we're parents, we're dads.
Same.
And I notice stuff all the time now, even with my kids. Like you constantly worry about, are they feeling okay? Are they doing okay? Are they happy?
Yeah.
All of these things always come into question. And what you start to notice is that people in general of all ages, they struggle with something. Like my daughter could get home from school and she's had a tough day, so she's struggling internally, she's having a tough day. I have to be there to help her through it, and then I can go to bed, same household, same family, and be struggling with something completely different. And then it just starts to dawn on you, it's like we're all struggling. Everyone's got shit going on. It's tough. And so, and it's always there's the lyric, if you're scratching through the surface trying to find, wondering what you'll find inside, or I can't remember the lyric exactly right now, but it's talking about like just looking inside and understanding that yes, shit's tough, but we're all going through it. And so a lot of people try and rely on other people to help them through tough times, which is very important. You need a support system, but ultimately you can be your strongest support system. You can help yourself through situations, and just be strong for yourself and be kind to yourself, and give yourself grace. And I think that's kind of where this song sort of stemmed from and came from. It was like, okay, life's tough.
Yeah.
Shit's hard. If it's good, even if life is great, it's still hard. You still have problems. We all do. And so, finding those problems and just sort of helping yourself through them is kind of the message behind that song.
Yeah, I mean, like being a dad, it's like it's a whole different animal, I feel like, because you have to be strong for your kids, you have to be strong for your counterpart. Like dads don't always get a chance to be the sad one and the depressed one. Dads usually kind of have to rise to the occasion and take on a lot of the responsibility, shoulder a lot of the energy, and because like like you say, your daughter comes home, she's had a bad day. You can't be like, okay, well, let me tell you about my day. Like, like, let me tell you why I'm pissed. Because
Right.
your little girl, like everything that happened in her day, like that's her whole world. And like, you have to be there for her. And like, it's tough for, guys and dads, especially, to like be able to find that time to take a minute and like check in with yourself and like really like recognize like, okay, am I doing okay? Like, do I need to talk to somebody?
Right. And I think that's where empathy comes from, because if you can sit down and listen to, like, if I listen to my daughter going through her bad day, like you say, I can't be like, well, check out my day.
Yeah,
but
this
I
fucking
can
guitarist
compare it to my day. Yeah, but if I can sit there and go, okay, well, I've had a bad day too, so I actually know how she's feeling. I don't know exactly because I'm not her, but I can empathize and I can understand. And I think, that's where empathy comes from. And if you can do that, and if you can, put yourself in someone else's shoes and be there for someone else, then surely you can be there for yourself too, which I think is kind of the redeeming light at the end of the tunnel in Dark Void, realizing, I am there for people, I'm there for other people, and I love being there for other people, but I need to be there for me too.
Yeah, did you see David Draymond from Disturbed? He had like a speech go viral at a recent show he was doing where he kind of like dove into that a little bit.
Oh no, I didn't.
Yeah, he went out, he was playing a song and he talked about how much he misses like Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington and all those cats, and he talked about you know, and then he got real for a minute. He's like, you know what? Like a few months ago, I almost joined him. You know, like I was in a deep depression and all this stuff. And it's like you follow the guy on Twitter. He's making like funny ooh ah jokes and stuff. Like he seems like a, you know, well-adjusted dude, no issues. And then like yeah, you know, just stuff always bubbling under the surface. You never know what anyone's going through. Like it's wild. Like even like a guy like that on the top, you know, still has demons to battle. So it's good to have music out there like your
you know,
song.
and I think that's why music is it's such a helpful thing, you know, in my childhood, you know, going through all the stuff I went through in my childhood, my parents splitting and everything like that. Music was my crutch, you know, it helped me a lot. But I think what I've learned over the years and on being on this planet is I think everyone just needs to remember, again, like Dark Void is kind of exploring that we all do have our problems, and so we need to just all be kinder to each other and a little bit more understanding. And I feel like nowadays there's a lot of us versus them. People, it's a real shame because it shouldn't be that way and it doesn't need to be that way. And I think, you know, just try and be kind. Did you ever see that movie? It's a really old film. It might be from the 90s or something, I think, called Pay It Forward.
Oh yeah,
Like,
dude, I loved that movie.
What a spectacular concept for a
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, right. Such a great movie. I'm like, man, let's do that. Everything in the cinema these days is a remake of something, and it's just like, what do we need? Another Power Rangers? Do we need? Why can't if you're gonna remake something, remake that movie. Let's get that
message.
movie out there again.
Yeah,
that was a great film.
God, I forgot, dude. Do you remember who was in that? That was a good movie. I don't remember who was in that one.
It was the kid from
Sixth Sense.
Sixth Sense.
The Haley Joel Osment or whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that is like, you're right, man. That's a nice movie. It's just a nice movie. You know, like I need to go back and watch that.
What a bit like a concept. It's like, I'm going to do something nice for you. I don't want any return. I just want you to do something nice for someone else, you know, and it's so cool. What a cool thing.
Yeah, I love the video for the new song too. It looked like you guys like shot it in like the belly of a sea urchin or something like that. Can you talk to me about like how the creative process was behind that?
That's actually where we shot it.
But sea urchin, I knew it.
We did shoot it in the belly of a sea urchin, massive sea urchin.
You had to wheel him in.
No, I think again we were trying to do. Exactly. No, we're trying to do like I'm saying, like we're trying to listen to our fan base and also be creative and new too. So they're kind of like throwbacks. There's a lot of throwbacks on this record. So like the car from Dark Void, it's like the riff originally when I was writing it, I was like, I want a big, low, heavy riff like Into the Fire. And so my whole thought process behind that song was, okay, I want something that gives the same energy as Into the Fire. So then we started discussing bringing the car back. And then, you know, after that, it was like, okay, well, let's just go. We've done the crazy music videos. We did them ages ago with it. We're starting with Into the Fire, you know, what in the same video. And then we did the violence. And we were like, okay, in the spirit of you know, delving into the full discography of this band, you know, let's go back and go back to the days where it's like, okay, when we, for instance, when we were doing Stand Up and Scream or Reckless and Relentless, you don't have loads and loads of you don't have record labels throwing money at big projects and big budgets and stuff like that, you know. So we had to just get together as a band and perform and do the damn thing, and that's what music videos used to be. Yeah. And so that was kind of the idea behind that. We wanted to create the sort of world that we were in, the Dark Void, you know, and we were inside the chaos that's inside all of our minds. But at the same time, we wanted it to look like a band that doesn't just get handed stuff from labels and sponsors, and actually create a music video that was nostalgic in that sense. So, you know, there's just 5 guys, you know, and we kind of explored that on the record too. So we wanted to really strip everything. So this new video and the new sound is way less stripped back than that. It's kind of like a happy middle ground, but the video felt nostalgic when we were, even the way we were filming it. And there's even some cool stuff just doing that again. It can make you feel excited again. So we were like working on these heavier songs, and it was like, oh, I've not felt this energy in quite a long time either. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really loved like the skeleton like hologram stuff you had to go on there, and especially like when you guys get to that kind of like glitchy breakdown. It was really cool how like the music kind of synced up with that. Like which the breakdown is one of the coolest fucking parts. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, those glitchy the faces and stuff. They're supposed to sort of represent, the problems that we all go through in
Hmm.
life. It could be anything, any problems that you're facing. If they're supposed to sort of represent them, sort of swirling around you and being there. And obviously, you keep prevailing over these things. But yeah, that bridge it's heavy, man, and no one can sit here and tell me it's not heavy either, because
Right.
I know when I was recording it, one of the big notes that goes bah, it's not even a note. Like we detuned the guitar, we just twisted all of the pegs down, so it's just
Oh,
like it was the heaviest thing. And then we did it again with an octave pedal on, so it's even more
oh, fuck.
indistinguishable. Like I've been sat here trying to figure out how I'm going to do it live, because it's just
Yeah.
it's
You're
impossible.
like, hold on,
So I'm
hold
gonna
on,
have
hold
to
on.
have a pedal and then tune it back up again. Yeah. So, but that was the point. We were like, we want this to be really, really, really heavy. How can we create something heavy that's not obviously heavy? Like
Mhm.
we didn't want to just go down the road of, oh, okay, well, people say breakdowns are heavy, so let's just go write a breakdown. We didn't want to do that. We still wanted to be creative and do something different, but still get that heavy energy and that feel. And in this instance, it just felt right. The guitar was already tuned to like A sharp. It was already really low.
Yeah.
And then just to be like, I was like, okay, this is very, very ugly sounding.
So were the strings like even like on the fretboard at that point, or were they just like dangling off?
They were just rattling. They were against the fretboard, and it was
That's
like,
amazing.
that's the audio. And then even like to get it really sounding like the depths of hell, Matt slowed it down. So like that
Oh,
hit,
cool.
it's
Yeah.
like the strings going. It's like in super
Yeah.
slow mo, and it just gives that weird tone that it was fun. We had a lot of fun
Oh,
doing that.
dude, I can't wait to listen to the song again, knowing this backstory, because I'm gonna be
Yeah, yeah.
extra
Just
listening to
listen,
this
listen to
part.
that note like halfway
Yeah.
through. Like it kicks in, and then when it comes back in halfway through, it's like this big. It's
Hmm.
just like that's not a note, and you'll notice it now.
That's the brown note, man. People are gonna shit their pants.
That's the brown note. Yeah.
One of my favorite parts too about the video is at the end. There's a bonus. It's a little bonus song. Got a little teaser for "Nothing Left." Right. That's the next track, I'm assuming.
That's the next track. So that was also obviously, being a signed artist on a record label. There's things, there's conversations that have to happen back and forth, and
Hmm.
everyone at our label and our management and the band, we all have the same. We're all heading in the same direction. We all want the same things, but we don't always have the same idea of how to get there.
Yeah.
And for us, it was very important that we make sure our core fan base gets the songs that we feel will resonate with them.
Hmm.
Whereas with a record label, oftentimes, for obvious reasons, it's no secret, they'll want to go with like one of the hit songs, or
Yeah.
the bigger, you know what I mean, the more mainstream sounding thing.
The one that's gonna make the
And so,
bucks.
they need
Yeah.
to. That's their job. That's what
Yeah.
they do.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. But it came to a point where there were conversations going back and forth, and we felt very, very strongly about giving like I say, our core audience, our core fan base, songs for them
Hmm.
before servicing radio and such. And so I think, which a lot of labels don't like to compromise. A lot of them
Right.
will be like, no, this is what's happening, and you just have to go along with it, which is,
Hmm.
it's a shame, and it's not the way it should be. But our record label, always open for conversations and discussions, and we reached a compromise. And so Nothing Left is the song we wanted to come out. And again, it's not really what the music industry would call a single. Like Dark Void isn't what they would call a single either. It's leaning
Yeah.
too far in one direction. But I really want to do it. So they're like, okay, how about this? How about we release a single and Nothing Left at the same time? And I was like, most labels don't agree to do stuff like that, because
Right.
you're kind of competing with yourself. But I was like, you know what? That's awesome. That means you get to service radio and do all the stuff, and then we get to service our core fan base too. And then that kind of, it's like an umbrella. It takes care of our whole fan base, which, you know, we've got fans spread across the board too. So I really liked that idea. But Nothing Left is one of my favorite songs on the album. And so for me, it was like, that's really cool that you're allowing us to do that. Appreciate it. So, you know, they then were like, well, why don't we give your fans a teaser at the end of the video and give them something else to sort of hold on to and see what's coming. So we did, you know, and I'm glad about it. I'm really excited for that song. I think it's got one of the best choruses on the album. It's got one of the heaviest sections on the album. It's just it's a great song.
Yeah, like even like just from the little teaser I heard, like yeah, it sounded really cool, and like I loved it because like yeah, the song was ending, Dark Void, and I noticed like there was still like another like 50 seconds left in the video. I'm like, wait, what? Like, was it? You have like a little post video like script or something? And then yeah, that track, it's cool. Like it's nice. It kind of reminds me of like the days when you would get a CD and there'd be a bonus track after the end of it. You know, you don't get that anymore. You know, I like that you guys did that. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's exciting. And you know what, too? A lot of people, like, they're very cryptic and they're like, oh, there's something coming. And lots of people like to do the surprise. And we were just sat there and we were going, well, we don't really want it to be a surprise. We want people to be excited. We want them to know, hey, there's more stuff coming. And we want them to know the thought that went into this record, you know, trying to make sure that the band and all of our fans, which is a broad spectrum. Our fan base goes, like I say, some people's favorite songs are the ballads, you know, and some people's favorite songs are the really heavy stuff. So it's kind of tough, but a lot of thought went into these songs and trying to make sure that if you're an Asking Alexandria fan, no matter what kind of Asking Alexandria fan, this record's for you. And so, you know, doing a little teaser sort of, it's just our way of saying, hey, look, there's more stuff coming. And we're excited to share it with you.
I love it, dude. I love that approach. I think that's a great way to, you gotta give a little bit to everybody. Make sure you make everybody a little bit happy. I like it, man.
Yeah, exactly. We're all in this together.
I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I was just going to run through a few more like kind of random oddball questions if you're down. Not particularly related to Dark Void. Okay, first of all, should you wear T-shirts for bands you don't listen to?
Oh man, it's tough because I don't think that there's a rule against it, you know. I think, but I do find it odd that you would do that, unless, you know, maybe some people buy a T-shirt and they're like, I like this design, and then unaware of the band that's on it. I don't know. Yeah. But for me, it's just kind of like, I would never go up to somebody like, oh yeah, like this has happened to me. I went to a bar not too long ago before I left America, and I was wearing a Metallica T-shirt. And someone was like, oh, you like Metallica? I kid you not, like a stranger. And I was like, yeah, I love Metallica. And they were like, oh yeah, well, what's your favorite song then? And I was like, man, I'm not going to get into this.
Enter
this is ridiculous.
You know
what I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean? But I was just like, I get it. Because I think that's all come from like fast fashion, hasn't it?
Yeah.
There's like a lot of bands have sold rights to like H&M or stuff. So you see like people walking around in a Slayer T-shirt that's like, I don't know if you like Slayer. So I think there's two sides to it. One, does it matter if they don't like Slayer? Not really. You're probably never going to see that person again anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But two, on the other side, I'm kind of in my head, I'm like, but why are you wearing it?
But why?
If you don't know.
Yeah, I think it's always weird when people gatekeep huge bands like Metallica and Nirvana. It's like you don't even listen to them. It's like, bro, everybody listens to Nirvana, Metallica. Even if you don't listen to Nirvana, Metallica, you listen to them because like it's everywhere. You can't avoid it. Yeah.
I also tend to think as well, it can be a good thing because it's like people are very protective of metal, more so than rock, really, but metal in general. But the reality is, metal is it's okay. So being a touring musician, you go to a festival, and I remember back in the days when, you know, massive metal festivals were doing, you know, 120, 130,000 people. And you go back now and there's like 50 or 60,000 people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think that that's a good thing. I think, you know, okay, say this person's wearing a Slayer T-shirt. Say it's, I don't know, a Kardashian. And people are all up in arms saying, why is she wearing a Slayer T-shirt?
Right.
Okay, fair enough. Fair question. Bit strange. I don't know that she doesn't like Slayer, to be fair. But, let's assume she doesn't. Her wearing it and exposing it to that platform means people are going to go, what's
Yeah.
Slayer?
Right.
And that just spreads the Slayer name out there to more people. And maybe one day we can get back to these massive festivals where it's like metal and rock is reigning supreme, because I love music of all genres. I love country, I love pop, I love blues, but I do think there's something magic about metal and rock. I think more often than not, the musicians in a metal and a rock band, they pour themselves into this music, and more often than not, it's not about chart positions and cash grabs and stuff. It's because they love music and they spent time. And so I feel like I want metal to be the biggest genre of music in the world again, because it shows everyone the talent that is in our world, in our realm, and so it's a bit weird seeing people wear t-shirts if they don't listen to the band, but hey, maybe that's introducing the next generation of rock and metal fans to the world.
And hey, there's nothing wrong with spreading the gospel of rock and metal, right? Like you said, we gotta get it out there more.
Yeah.
Speaking of metal, what's your favorite? If you listen to it, what's your favorite new metal band?
What, like NEW?
Oh yeah,
or
yeah,
NU?
NU, yeah, rap metal.
Oh man, that's another thing I've been talking about recently. Is back when new metal was coming out, sort of the early 2000s, when it was like not coming out actually, because I suppose it started in the 90s, but when it was
I feel you. When it exploded.
You look back now, but at the time, people were going, "Oh, new metal,
Right.
new metal," and people say it now to like, "Oh, what a terrible era." I think it was one of the best eras of metal ever, because it was so huge, but it also birthed. That was the cool thing about new metal. If you listen to like 80s metal bands, a lot of them sound very similar. Do you know what I mean? But the 80s spawned some incredible bands. Same with the 60s, same with every generation and era of music. And new metal was so diverse. I feel like when you say new metal, an automatic sound goes into your head. But the reality is, you've got Slipknot on one end of that spectrum, Linkin Park on the other end of the spectrum. You've got Evanescence somewhere in the middle. You've got System of a Down. You've got Korn. You've got all these great bands that came from new metal, and they all sound so different. They're so unique. Like Slipknot is a new metal band. They are.
Right.
But they do not sound anything like Linkin Park. And Linkin Park do not sound anything like System of a Down, and so
and Deftones.
I just think it's such a great era. I still listen to it. If I'm going to put on a metal album, chances are 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a new metal record from that era. Probably Toxicity or something, or Iowa.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be from that era, And I still love listening to Metallica and all kinds of other metal bands too. But new metal, I don't know, holds a special place in my heart. Maybe it's my age.
I feel you, man, because there is something like juvenile and fun about it. And like, did you get a chance to see that Woodstock documentary they did on Netflix from '99?
I've not watched it yet, because there's so many documentaries. I love documentaries. There's a Beatles one too I need to watch, but I've got 4 kids, and so
I feel you.
If I have television on, if I'm even remotely interested, if I'm interested in the slightest, I can guarantee my kid will come and talk to me here while I'm trying to watch it.
Yeah.
So I don't get time.
I watched it. I watched it when I had COVID one time, so that's why I was able to devour the whole thing in one sitting, because I was like locked up anyway.
Check this out. This is really cool. This is genuine, by the way. I don't know if you can make that out.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
So, is that from the original, or was that from?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This
Holy
is
shit.
an actual piece of the stage.
Whoa, that's fucking dope.
Yeah, from Woodstock, 1969.
Wow.
So cool. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, that's I like you just have that sitting there, like, yeah, I got this piece of Woodstock.
A little piece of Woodstock history. I love it. It's so cool.
Then as a fan of Woodstock and new metal, you gotta carve out some time someday, man. You gotta watch this docuseries because it's so good. It just takes you like back to that era. And
that's
like you
the
said,
one, I mean, that's the Limp Bizkit Korn Woodstock, right?
Yeah, I mean, with all the chaos happened.
That was absolute insanity. I still go back and watch YouTube videos of the Korn and Limp Bizkit performances, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is that's what I'm talking about though. Look how big that festival was. How many
Mhm.
people were there? Like 1 million?
Dude, people, it was like one of the first like
Insane.
live like pay-per-views too. Like you people paid like $60 to watch it on TV. Like
Just absolute insanity. There's something magic about looking at the footage and seeing that sea of people
yeah.
just bouncing in
Right.
unison. You know, I'm just like,
Right.
whoa, this is nuts.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and like you were saying too, like all those bands, they all got lumped into the new metal umbrella, but they didn't sound anything like each other. Like I likened it to like almost like the emo thing in the early 2000s as well. Like there were so many bands that were called emo, but it's like, you know, All American Rejects didn't sound like Under Oath, you know, but they all got called emo. Like it's weird how that if you're just an alternative band that comes out in a certain time period, you get kind of lumped in.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I bet you know, I don't think this probably isn't a new conversation. I bet you in the 60s, people were getting, you know, lumped under the same umbrellas and stuff too, and going, well, why are we, just because of the generation, the era that we're playing music in, you know?
For sure. All right, one more fireball question here for you. Is there any song that you would put on your never listen again list? Like one song you're good on, you've heard it enough, you never want to hear it again?
Oh man, I don't know that I can. I mean, that's a tough one. I don't think so. You know, I mean, there's loads of songs I don't like.
Yeah.
But to like hear a song and be like, oh my god, no, I can't. I'm never going to listen to this ever again. It's such a weird thing to say, because I suppose it depends on the context of how you're listening to said song as well. I mean, think about, I mean, goodness, there's so many really bad songs. Like I'm Blue. Remember that song from when we were kids?
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, this is so stupid. I don't ever need to listen to this ever again. But I promise you, it comes on shuffle on my iPad every now and again. And I'm like, this is sick.
Yeah. And well, have you heard like the remix that got popular again, like last year? Like some pop artists redid it. Oh yeah, some pop artists did it and remixed it. So it's like it was on the radio again all of a sudden. I was like, because I heard it one day, I'm like, why the fuck are they playing this song again? Like, yeah, some artists like probably our age or something, or actually probably somebody way younger than us that just discovered it for the first time. I'm like, oh shit!
Discovered it. I was like, this is retro as shit.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, everything old is new again.
Never say never. Yeah.
Well, Ben, dude, I appreciate you taking time to chat with me, man. I know you got a lot going on with the release day. I know this is not a casual low day for you. I know you got a lot going on, so I appreciate you hanging out and chatting with me.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. It was nice to talk to you.
You take care, brother.
Cheers, man. You too. Take care.